Kimberly Ann Dyson was born in Marblehead on July 11, 1964, the daughter of Karen Cornwell Dyson and Bruce Dyson. She attended local schools and in 1975 moved with her mother to Farmington, Connecticut. In Connecticut, she attended local schools and played varsity softball, field hockey, and town ice hockey. She learned to ski at the Otis Ridge Junior Ski Camp. However, Kim's sports career was cut short by a torn ACL tendon, which was to get worse and eventually require major surgery. Kim loved tools and showed an early inclination for carpentry and mechanics. Her birthday wish at age 14 was for a case of oil for her various crankcases and subsequently her high-performance dirt bike. Kim loved to motorcycle and bought and traded several. Finally, she ended up with a huge Yamaha YZ125 with giant knobby tires. She was the envy of all the boys. Applying to college, Kim was admitted to UConn in Hartford. She aced all of her courses and was subsequently admitted as a transfer student to the famed University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, Michigan. Kim and I flew to Detroit and rented a car to drive to Ann Arbor. The rented car was a brand new Trans Am, and Kim felt that we were really arriving in style. We had to do some learning about the Midwest. Among other things we found out, football is not a casual sport like our Ivy League contests. The Wolverines were a dynamic football team created by the legendary Bo Schembechler, who won 234 games for Michigan. The rallying cry was "M Go Blue." I found that if you saw one of the football team on the sidewalk, you'd better move over. Those players are so huge. They're like a walking mountain. Ann Arbor was a lovely college town with a beautiful campus and a mania for football. After enrolling as a freshman, Kim chose a very difficult major with extensive engineering overtones, and she graduated with a degree in computer sciences. At Michigan, Kim was on the women's heavyweight 8-person crew, and she rode against all the colleges in the big Head of the Charles race in Cambridge, Mass. After graduation, Kim coached the club rowing team in Cleveland and eventually reverted to rowing a single shell on the Cuyahoga River. It was our tradition to take one daughter on a special trip each year. Accordingly, Kim and I headed to Europe for a combined business and pleasure trip in the summer of 1981. I had business in London, and then we were to fly to Amsterdam to check on an agricultural business in which our chairman, Oliver Grace, had invested. The business was growing mushrooms underground in trenches fertilized and harvested by a tiny railroad. In Holland, Kim was excited because the tulips were blooming and the picture-perfect windmills were everywhere. We were both looking forward to a few days of touring when a telephone call came from the U.S. advising me that the oldest son of one of our close friends, Baird Haney, had died in an automobile accident. So Kim and I caught the next plane to Boston and attended the funeral, and that was the end of our special trip to Europe. However, Kim, years later in the U.S. Navy, visited many of the Mediterranean ports and did quite a lot of touring on her own. All of this time, Kim wanted to join the military as a flyer. Because of the earlier leg injury, Kim failed a pre-commissioning physical, despite having taken the courses to qualify for the commission from the Air Force ROTC. Later, the Navy was to accept the ACL repair and allowed her to enroll in the Aviation Officer Candidate School. This is a program aimed at becoming a Navy flyer. But it begins with a tough piece of training with the U.S. Marines. Running 20 miles a day, jumping over traps, overhead ladders, and much of the basic training given the Marines. After commissioning, Kim received the traditional salute from the drill instructor. Kim went on to flight school and became a Navy flyer, and in March 1992, she received her pilot's wings of gold. Flight training in the A-4J Skyhawk was accomplished in Oceana, Virginia, and following a transition to the single-seat FA-18, she subsequently qualified in carrier jet fighter tactics. The best pilots were selected to fly the Navy's top fighter bomber, the single-seat FA-18. The picture shows an FA-18 at touchdown on the carrier deck. Subsequently, Kim completed a tour in the Med and in the Middle East on the Dwight D. Eisenhower. After the carrier returned to the U.S., parents of the pilots were invited on board for a weekend cruise. The picture shows Karen and Kim's father, Bruce, on the deck of CVN 69 during the Tiger cruise. Kim moved through the ranks in various deployments, flying hundreds of missions in Bosnia and the Middle East. Her class was the first to allow women to enter combat in accordance with a ruling issued by then-President William Clinton. Over the years, Kim was in many squadrons and lived on many carriers. She was promoted to lieutenant commander, and pictured here is her portrait in Navy service dress blues. Later on, Kim was to test fly the FA-18s after completing extensive maintenance at the depot-level maintenance facility located at NAS, Jacksonville, Florida. She's shown here in the famous Blue Angel airplane, which after maintenance was being returned to its assigned pilot. Like all service personnel, her life is a series of moves and transitions. We're showing here Kim's house in Mississippi and Kim's present house in St. Augustine. Dogs became a big part of Kim's life. One was a beautiful yellow lab, Molly, who was trained as a cadaver recovery dog and is widely sought after by the police when a body must be found. Also, her companion dog, Bear. As an avocation, Kim started to repair and restore old cars. Her first vehicle was a 1968 TR-250 convertible Triumph. This car was totally taken down and rebuilt, and she has the vehicle today. Recently, she bought a 1953 MGTD with its classic wooden frame. This will be the next rebuild. It happens to be the same model car that I took to South America. Kim takes what time she can to spend with the family. She's pictured here with Hannah Stewart and with Zachary Stewart.
Beyond the blue horizon.
In 2010, Kim will start a new chapter in her life when she retires from the Navy after 20 years of service. She has a lovely house at 12th Street in St. Augustine, beautifully remodeled between the ocean and the inland waterway. Kim's health is good, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a new airplane in her future.